Invisible Soldiers podcast. Welcome to the Invisible Soldiers podcast. I'm Rebecca.
I'm Corey.
Thanks for making us your go-to advertising podcast. After a brief hiatus, we're back to talk about all the ways advertising has been shaking up the world lately. So with no further ado, let's get into it.
What up, though?
What up, though?
How you been? It's been a minute.
It's been a minute. So much has happened on the planet.
we had so much has happened. We had a hiatus. So let's talk about the hiatus for a minute. About a couple months ago, you hit me up. You're like, dude, I'm burnt to a crispy French fry. How you feeling?
Well, it's so funny you say that because I think it was, to be honest with you, I think that feeling of burnt out or like what to do next has been a theme, even with some of our guests. Yeah. I think, we've kind of gotten to a point in our career. I'm 25 years in now since October. This has been my whole life and it's been a journey, but, kind of trying to go inside oneself to figure out like, well, what is, if I have to work, and it's America, so I do, what do the next 25 years look like? And what can I create or be a part of where I can still use all of the things and skills and experience, but maybe what will light me up as opposed to, burn me out.
Right.
It gets to be a grind. So I did hit you up and let you know that I was maybe not so inspired. But I'm glad to be back because I think we have a lot to talk about.
Good. Recharged?
I am recharged. I'm looking forward to going into the holidays.
I know, right? Man, it's like the end of the year already. It's crazy. I've been busy grinding, pushing through to the end of the year. I got some days off coming up. Looking forward to that because I'm trying to recharge a little bit and get my battery back full. So yeah, but
yeah, the summer flew by.
I hear you way better now, by the way.
Oh, good. I turned up the volume.
There you go. All right. That's a good thing. Okay, so an election happened. A major election. And I'm going to hand it over to the black one.
Well, I mean, I can't speak for all black women, but, before we hopped on, I think we talked a little bit about, to be honest, something that we don't talk about often at work is just kind of how we feel. And as I have been checking in with my sisters in this service of corporate America, we've been talking about what it feels like to be consistently qualified or overqualified and to still be the underdog. It's a very strange place to be, to not have people believe in the work that you've done, even when you bring the receipts, even when you bring the expertise. There still seems to be that need to have to prove themselves. And I will have to say that for a couple days, or maybe even till today, the emotion is a lot of resentment, just in terms of like, again, that being qualified for something and then being passed over when you think that you're playing fair in the sandbox. And then, personally, in terms of what I do for a living, it mirrors a lot of the way that we hire, to be honest with you. I've seen it in every industry. I've seen it in every job where qualified Black women lead the charge and are often overlooked or passed over or somehow just not seen as to be a fit and kind of have to figure out how to rotate out of something. But it has been quite a roller coaster. But the other theme that I'm seeing, which I'm really happy about, is Black women taking some time for themselves and maybe not show up as the superhero all the time. I think a lot of times whether it's self-imposed or expected or just given to you, you kind of take the lead on things. And that comes from a deep sense of caring. It comes from a deep sense of trying to self-actualize and to be excellent. I think a lot of us, especially Black people who have taken a lot of time to, work and study and kind of move through this our particular industry and others, but to take maybe some time to focus on ourselves, like, actually take some time off. Like, like I've just, that's in the immediate, like maybe take some time off to yourself, to kind of take I guess a minute to figure out, what you want to do, and how you want to show up. But it was a great disappointment. And I can't say that like I thought she was going to win, but I had hoped, I think is really kind of where I landed on that. Because again, we shouldn't be completely shocked considering, our history, but it was just such a shining opportunity, I think, to push things, and not to be overly dramatic, but to push humanity forward. Like, this was no small thing.
Let me ask you this question, because this is something I always go back and think about. If I'd have asked you 4 months ago, could she win? What would you have said?
I would have said absolutely. I think it would have been the smart thing to do.
If you'd have asked me 4 months ago, I would have said, I don't think so. Like
Mm.
I would have said, I don't think so, right? But then I think what happened when Joe pulled out and she stepped in, the reception was way more positive than I thought it would be, right?
Mm.
Like I didn't expect everybody to push in and just, I didn't expect record numbers at the airport. I didn't expect, record numbers at all of these venues. So when I saw that, I said, oh, wow, there is some energy here. There's some momentum here. Um, but I didn't believe that at first. If you was just, if she runs, could she have a chance? I would have said, no way. So it
Why?
was, oh, mm, I just got the feeling from just hearing her name in the streets, from black people, from white people, from non-blacks and whites. There wasn't a lot of love.
Mm.
There wasn't a lot of love. So when she came out and became the candidate, there seemed to be way more love than I thought was there.
I agree, but they also, I feel like, and this is where our world kind of jumps in, right? The narrative that we got was around this succession, right? So Joe is going to step aside and let the future take over. And I think that that was very attractive for so many people. But
Yeah,
that's
for
so
sure.
interesting, like that we sit in different, not that our perspectives on, like, for me, I'm like, this woman has all of this experience, like, of course. Right, but
I,
to your point.
I have heard a lot of black men talk about her, and with a very skeptical eye based on her kind of past as a district attorney. So, she was putting us in jail. And like, those were the
Yes.
conversations that I heard a lot, from other fellows that I know.
And you want to know what's so interesting about that, right? I won't tell you which agency, but I do know that there was an agency that was picking up the work, right? Because I mean, we saw she raised $1 billion. Well, where do you put that $1 billion? You buy
Yeah.
ads, right? So, like, thinking about who picks that work up, and they move it around to multiple shops. But one of the shops that they had tapped, that was like one of the biggest hurdles that they were going to work towards, was specifically the messaging around how do we talk to Black men, and either dispel what the narrative was, or just like figuring out where those connective tissue points are in terms of them thinking about her. But it took a while. You're absolutely right. It took a while for people to opt in to the idea, and watch it morph. Like, we saw DL Hughley like apologized, right? Like, and
Hmm.
I believe there was like a black male like symposium where like they were on the dais talking a lot about like how do we push it forward. Um, but yes, you are absolutely right. Now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I would have been like, it's the obvious choice based on these just two candidates, like who's just more. But in terms of who would really vote for her, you're right. Maybe 3 months ago,
But
6
in
months
our
ago.
country, what we prefer, what we always choose, are kind of rogue anti-heroes, right? We love John Wayne as Americans, right? We like James Dean, the outsider. We like Michael Jordan, punch his teammates in the chest and punk them out, right? We like Kobe, I'm gonna do it my way, right?
We liked
Americans,
Obama. That was the most different thing we've ever seen. It got white people in Iowa being like, "Yes, we can."
because he didn't come from any of the black institutions, right? So
Correct.
he felt different, right? So we like this kind of rogue individual who is not necessarily a part of systems, conventional systems, traditional systems, because, and I think the reason why is I think as Americans we are we are like way more apathetic than we think we are,
Mm.
right? And I know people who just don't trust government. I'm one of them, right? So if you don't trust government and somebody's saying, trust my resume because I've been in the government
Right. You're right. You're right.
for 30 years, right? I'm like, nah, bruh. Like, so I think there's a lot of that, right? And then the other thing that we love, the other two things we love money and celebrity, right?
Mm.
And if you can combine that mix, it's a it's a powerful mix. Now, from an advertising point of view, I don't know if I don't remember the campaign slogans from either of these two. Do you? I couldn't give you either campaign slogan. I mean, I guess I mean I
Make
know the
America
MAGA hat.
great again.
I know the MAGA hat, but I feel like the MAGA hat is its own thing. I don't even know if that's like a ad campaign anymore. But like, I couldn't tell you Kamala's, you know, slogan. I don't know it. I think Trump probably had the biggest viral moment with that
Mm.
assassination attempt. Like that was a thing. Um, and I guess if we talked about just who dominated the nightly headlines,
Yeah.
he, I think he knows that that is a path for him, even if it's I hate kids. You're on all the stations in circulation for the
Yes.
next 72 hours. I hate pizza. Here you come, you eat another 72 hours, right? And if you can
Yes.
just dominate that, right? Because every time you say I hate this, there are gonna be people who say, no, he doesn't.
Right.
Even if you have him on tape saying it, right? But it keeps you in the news cycle. And I
It
think
does.
there's a power to that, right? Like, and I think, um, when we think about what we try to do in crack codes and advertising, we want to dominate the social conversation. I think part of that is that piece, right? Like, just stay in the news. If you can just continue to make news, good or bad, you start to become like a hit song, and people
Yes.
like this dude must be important. They're always talking about him.
Right.
It has a psychological effect on you.
It does. I guess I just thought how outlandish that it would, like, yes, I'm watching glued to my TV, but I couldn't possibly make that choice. So, like, in my mind, right, I had, I guess, a different understanding of where we were in
Yeah.
terms of politics in this country, that would be the better choice. But then the other thing that's difficult is you talk about campaigns that it's just out of control, is that we are in our own echo chambers and they can literally send you messaging that whatever they want regarding how you choose and where this candidate sits on their politics. We saw that, how that played out in Michigan, here in Detroit, in Dearborn, and in another neighborhood that's like 90% Muslim and or also Palestinian connected. And they they decided to go against based on what they knew. We were seeing immigrants, whether they are documented or undocumented, voting for this. Again, curious about what information they're receiving in their algorithm and like how they're able to control that. And then again, like if it told me to eat broccoli 7 times a day, depending on how they said it, what it was dressed like, if there's a Black woman telling me why I should do it, I might eat broccoli 7 times a day. So, yeah,
Right.
it's a really odd place to be in history that we are not all watching ads together anymore. Like so alone in your own little echo chamber that
Yep.
you can't even control it anymore.
Yep. Yep. No, it's true. Um, yeah, it's just a lot of fascinating. I mean, the whole Blacks for Trump thing
Oh my
is
God,
really interesting, right? Like,
right.
I
But Trump has
mean,
been in our culture for so long, though. Like there are rap
oh,
songs with him in it, right?
a
Like,
lot of them. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Um,
Did you see the fight? Here, let's change the topic. Did you watch the fight?
I did watch the fight. I feel bad for watching the fight. Well, first of all, let's talk about what that really was, right? That was a dress rehearsal for Netflix to prove that they could stream live sports because I think they're trying to be at the table with the NFL. That's what that all of that was. All that hoopla was for that one reason, right? You come to Jerry's house, you stream out to 50 million people, and it was glitchy as hell. It was a little problematic, but they'll get the tech right. But what they did was they proved that they could market an event on a large scale and get 50 million people to show up.
Right at the same time. When was the last time
That's
that happened?
powerful. If you can do that, we will partner with you, right? Any business is going to partner with you, right? So to me, the fight was a sham, but it's a dress rehearsal for Netflix to get in business with the NFL.
Absolutely. I would watch live streaming. I thought it was fun too. Like we had a fight party over here and
Yeah,
it became a whole thing and people watching, like I had people watching because they were running late. So they're watching on the phone and then they're coming in the door. Like how we consume is really interesting. And you're right. Like
but what we sold, they really sold a 27-year-old fighting a man who's almost 60 years old, and people were interested to see that.
in it.
Come on, come
Surreal,
on.
but it's surrealism, like 100%. It's so bizarre, right? It's so bizarre.
We love villains though, right? So this it all ties in. We love this villain. So I think Jake Paul is a marketing creation. He's not a fighter. He's a marketing creation, right? And he's a villain, and you can just keep putting people in front of him as long as it's a name but not a real fighter, and people will go, yeah, I want to see that person beat him. And he hasn't fought a real opponent yet.
At all.
I mean,
He's
he
only been
he who did he lost to? What was that? That was Mayweather, right? But like, you know how little and tiny Mayweather looked compared to him. I mean, come on, it was a joke.
right. Jake Paul's got quite a reach. But like also I think we're in the era of not only villain, but like you no longer have to put 40 years into something in order to be the
Anything,
champion.
anything. This dude, it just goes on Twitter and just like is calling out legends. Like, huh? What? No barrier to entry. Just come in off the street and you get a shot. Like, what?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And we all watched. And I did. I watched the whole thing. I will tell you, I think the only real fight was the ladies' fight. That
The
was a
ladies'
real
fight was a
fight.
good fight.
Yeah. And she got robbed.
She did get robbed. Facts. Facts. But because 50 million people tuned in, he's gonna get another shot and another shot and another shot. Right. Meanwhile,
Yes.
you got real fighters who are busting their butt who can't get a platform that big to display their talents. That's
Ever.
where
It
that's where this inequity that we talking about. Like it's like the real
didn't
thing
earn it.
versus the sham, right?
Didn't earn it. didn't earn it. Like that's the irony of like that DEI statement, right? So it's almost like we're on the opposite of it. Like the literal fact that you can pay all of that money to get in the ring with one of our beloved heroes, and now somehow you're the guy. You know, it just continues to go back to like real qualifications and how they can continue to perpetuate the ability to win, and you didn't win. You didn't win.
What's your take on the Mike Tyson thing? I saw some people were happy. They like Mike got a check, you know, and other people were like, this is sad. Like this is
Yeah.
what's your take on it?
Well, okay, so first, did you watch like because they got you ready. Like they got me like super excited for this fight. I watched all of those episodes
That's
before.
advertising. There you go.
Right?
Content.
Right?
Yeah.
Content. And so I watched all of them, and they were like 45 minutes a piece. I feel like there were maybe four episodes before the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And Mike looks so strong. Like that's the part that's just blowing my mind, is that like he looked like he
I'm gonna give
really
you a
was
little
ready.
secret. I'm gonna give you a
Yeah.
little secret. Whenever you see somebody in a gym by themselves and just one other person, it might be a basketball player with his trainer, and people in the gym by themselves look superhuman. Like I'm for real. I could cut together a tape of me in the gym by myself, and you'd be
Yeah.
like, "Dang, I ain't know you can hoop."
Get that
don't
boy a
ever
contract.
don't ever trust a highlight reel. Don't ever
Oh,
trust the highlight reel.
that is so
People are like, oh,
heartbreaking.
he's punching so hard and he's so fast. It's like there's nobody next to him to really compare that to. There's nobody punching back to compare it to. Never trust a person in an empty gym. I'm telling you.
Well, clearly I should have called you after I watched that, because my expectation when I turned the fight on that day was dude from the highlight reel was going to show up, and he looked like
Nah.
he was having a challenge. Um,
There was
and then,
no incentive for him to win. They have a cash cow, right? This dude is young. There are future fights for him. There's no future fight for Mike. Like even if he walked in there and like knocked him out, like that's it. That's a one-time thing. It's over. The long money, always bet on the long money. And he's the long money. I'm telling you. Until he fights a
it's
real
true.
fighter, bet on the long money.
It'll be interesting to see what he talks about, because he's all the podcasts. Like, I mean, I find him. I mean, obviously his early life was a little problematic, but like all the podcasts in terms of
Did,
he's centered, balanced,
no,
zen.
it's like the Guru Mike, right? Did
Right?
you see his one-man show?
No, I never saw that, and it came to Detroit too. I never got to see that.
It was I was weirdly surprised that he could remember all of that, and he was a provocative storyteller. It was a little sad, you know. I think that's the nature of being a former heavyweight champion, though, right? Like, so Mike got paid. We don't know how much, but he probably got paid pretty well for this fight. If you look at like the way most heavyweight champions go out, it's sad stories, right?
True.
Like we saw the health of Muhammad Ali. You think about people like Joe Lewis. When Joe Lewis died, he was in Las Vegas, greeting people in like Caesar's Palace Hotel, shaking their hands and taking pictures with them. The former champion of the world was just a greeter. He's like a McDonald's greeter kind of thing. That's what he was doing. You know, so you hear all of these kind of things. Sonny Liston was murdered in Vegas off the strip. Like, it's rough being a former
Yeah.
heavyweight champion, you know? So I guess if you look at it like that, this ain't that bad. But, you know, it's been a lot of years of seeing like the allure of Mike Tyson chipped away, you know? Remember when he did the every little step video? Remember that?
No, Bobby Brown, every little step.
Bobby Brown, every little what
Queued
was
up.
that for? I think it was like for Mad TV or something like that. It was like a little, and he put on the clothes and he did the dances. You never saw? You got to look that up. You got
No,
to Google
tell the
that.
engineer to put. We'll put that in the.
Yeah, that happened. I thought that was real sad. I thought that was real sad.
Really?
So,
Was that like
mhm.
following like his last like
That was like after his career was over, when he was
Mm.
like, he went through that phase where he was like popping up in movies. He was kind of being the funny man, and and it was just like, this is weird. This ain't really Mike Tyson. But hey, man,
Is that the way of all of our great heroes? Like, do you think that's going to happen to like all of them?
I think kind of
Yeah.
right.
Right.
I'm not a big Jay-Z fan, but he had this line about Bobby Brown. He said, to be Bobby then, you got to be Bobby now, right? And it's kind of like,
Oof.
it's that expectation. When you walk in a room, we don't want to see the lesser you. We want to see the superstar, right? And I think that's the part people forget. Once you're a superstar, you don't get to not be a superstar. You got to be Diana Ross is like 80 some years old. And every time she walks in the room, she is freaking Diana Ross from like 75, right? But
Forever.
she's been able to maintain that. But that is tough. Most people can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. That's true. I think it's tough to be.
Eventually, the chinks in the armor start to show. You know what I mean?
But like what'll be interesting though about like these quote unquote celebrity influencers, right? So like Jake Paul, like what does he have really to stand on like in 40 years from now? Like what will I mean, I imagine he probably has a vision for himself because he's gotten himself this far, but not in a real competitive way. He bought his way in. Like he literally bought his way in.
And he's
And that's
continued to sell his way to the next tier, and he will be selling himself as a legend 20
a
years from now.
legend.
And
I
people
know.
will be giving him legendary awards and stuff. Like it's just where we are. It's where we
We'll
are.
rewrite the story. They will rewrite the story of even like how Mike Tyson was probably at his best that night, and Jake Paul was able to take him out. You know, like I like that's how quickly a narrative will shift.
I love tuning into these like stories, like where you see and they talk about, you know, the legendary R&B group, and then they say the name of like Silk. It's like Silk. Like Silk is a legendary R&B group for real. Like,
H-Town, yeah.
but that's what if you do 20 years at anything now, you are a legend. It's like, so
Do you
that's
feel
where
like
we
a
at.
legend? Because we've been going
No,
for
I
20
am not a
years.
legend. I'm just
I don't either.
according to these Gen Zers, I'm Unk and I'm
Um,
OG. Yeah. If
yeah.
look, miss me with that Unk stuff. Like I'm not
You're not a fan of that. You're
I'm
not a
not
fan.
I'm not
Do you
I'm not
feel
embracing
like
Unk.
that's too old? Like what's
It's a sneak diss.
oh
So I still play basketball. So I was in the gym and the dude, good shot, Unk. I said, who? I said, who? I was like, I'm about to light your ass.
not what Mike Tyson did.
And I did light him up. I was like, you will not be calling me Unk, sir. No, I'm not your Unk.
That's
Yeah.
nuts. That's nuts. What else is happening on the planet? Where else are we before and after this election?
Okay. So, you can't go on YouTube without still. I'm kind of over all the Diddy and all
Oh,
the parallel stories. I just, nothing shocking. There's nothing you can tell me that will even make me go, really? Like, I'm just like, yep, probably did. Like,
in
probably
fact, my
happened.
friend
Yep,
told me so.
facts. Yep. Like, nothing is shocking. I'm numb to all of that.
Wait a minute. So if we're numb to all of that, are we ever going to be surprised again? I mean, all the things that we thought
No,
couldn't
we
happen have
will.
happened.
We will, because I think what happens is somebody always comes on the scene that wins over your heart. You believe in them. You want the best for them. You feel like they represent us collectively really well, right? And you give in. And then the minute you give in, you get reminded that they're just a regular dude from a little town somewhere, broke, rusty butt. He got some money and did some wild shit. Yep,
It's real. It's real. It's
that's
real.
it.
Yeah. Everything is like you don't know what's real anymore. Like I think that's the other interesting thing. We don't have it on the agenda today, but like AI. is running crazy these days. I mean, I figured out how to use it in like some of my work, like, helping with defining things or helping with like tinkering with emails, stuff like that. But like I've seen it do some incredible renderings and videos. How are you feeling about that in your life right now?
Um, some of the top female influencers on like Instagram and TikTok aren't even real.
What do you mean?
They aren't real. They're AI. Like
What?
that woman in a bikini, or the woman who's modeling, she's not real. And
What?
if you, yeah, yeah, it's a lot of them. Look up top AI influencers. Google that right now. Look that up. It's gonna blow your mind.
What?
Yes.
And who are the people behind it?
Well, I don't know who those are, but if you got 75 million followers, you are making money.
You said 75. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Low do mag. I don't want to see these names. I don't know them. Oh my
There's
gosh.
this dark skinned influencer. She's this dark skinned black woman. People were giving her like, "Oh my God, this is the most gorgeous woman." Blah. She's AI.
She wasn't real. And wait,
She
I think I
wasn't
might have
real.
heard about that and run by a white guy.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
insane. Wow. They gave me like 25 of them. That's scary.
It's a lot of them out there for sure.
Yeah. And like music, how that affects music. What's
I listened to a new Tupac and Biggie album.
Stop it.
All like it was like 15 songs, like, and
Stop
they
it.
going back and forth. AI,
No.
AI.
Oh my
Yep.
gosh.
Yeah.
Oh,
You can create anything. You can make anybody say anything. You can, you know, it's weird.
it is weird. It is weird. I feel
It's
like
getting really weird now. Like it's getting
we're
real weird now.
we're probably the last, like, I almost want to call it like organic humans. You know what I mean? Like our generation, because we were here before
All
technology
of that
really took
stuff.
off.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the before, and now we're in the after. you know.
Yeah. I know when I'm receiving like chat GPT, like created emails from like people that I work with. I know when the creatives are using it. And I mean, okay. I guess eventually we'll figure out the best ways to use these things. I think, but right now we haven't figured it out. And I think right now it's just a way to be lazy. Like, let's just call that a
True.
day.
I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. And so I sit on an AI task force at work, and we are writing, because you have to write policy on how to use these tools, right? Unless
Right.
before it uses you. And before I started writing it, I read the United States of America's policy. It's 40 pages long, I want you to know. So, like, know that there is a policy written for this technology that none of us really know how it works or who's running it. But there is
Mm-hmm.
one about how we approach it in this country, because it could be super helpful or it could be super dangerous. They call that out in the US policy, that it could be dangerous. Things that I didn't even think about. I was at a dinner party, because I'm thinking, oh my God, we could use it this way. We could use it this way. It could help us automate, blah, 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 blah. I'm asking department heads to think about it that way. This guy said to me, you want to know what I asked it, Rebecca? I said, what did you ask it? He was like, well, I put in my routing numbers and I asked it to give me $1 million. I said, wait, what? I hadn't even considered like that somebody would use it that way. But
Yeah.
that's because, I'm not built that way, but
Right.
you never know who is. And to your point about how you use it at work, trying to identify best practices, and then even from like a content creation perspective, because like I'm sure clients eventually will start asking questions around like, well, what am I paying for? We've got, not to get all HRE and scopy on all of you, but at the end of the day, advertising agencies make their money not on the content that you make, but on the hours billed by the people. And
Right.
obviously they keep paying you as long as the work generates sales or brand identity, whatever we've decided that it is. But
Right.
if AI replaces a copywriter or an art director or a creative director. Like, but to your point, you can tell the difference between a man-made or a human-made idea versus an artificial intelligent idea. At least I hope we still can. But like in our policy, I wrote like there are several things that still require human like overseeing it by a human being. Like I had to write that. Like nothing go like a job description. Like I can't have AI write that. Like I have to look at it, right? Like as a human being, like I might know a few nuances that might be in there. So again, like how much leverage do we give this technology before we rein it in?
Everybody's worried about the creative and nobody's worried about the business. Like manipulating the scope, manipulating the hours, manipulating the fees, manipulating like that's the kind of stuff that I feel like an AI could do behind the scenes. Just be constantly working the, that's where it could get really, really dangerous, I think.
Well, MSAs now have clauses in there now with AI. Like I'm working more closely with finance because they have our clients have a POV on how AI is being used and what they're paying for. So you are absolutely right. It also like you're right, like to replace creative, but to be honest with you, AI could replace human resources easily. Everybody wants to outsource, some of those operational tasks.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It's kind of, we grew up with the era of like war games where there was always a whiz kid behind the
Favorite
keyboard,
movie.
right? There are no whiz kids no more. It's just AI.
It's just AI. I think. I mean, I don't know. Like, is like where is
maybe there's a whiz kid behind that. I don't know, man.
Like, is there like or like in the Matrix? Is it a key maker? Like, where does it? Like, no one has told us like where it starts. We can probably again ethereal conversations, but it's like it's just such an. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not scared, but I'm also like, whoa.
We gonna find out. And on that note, I think we are done. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Invisible Soldiers podcast. Continue to follow us, like, subscribe, wherever you listen to podcasts. Until next time, peace.
Peace.